Hey, hi everybody. So, in this session, we will see what are Ruby modules. We will see how to use them, when to use them, and why to use them. After that, we will see what are the different use cases of modules. And we will also see what is the difference between include and extend keyword. And after that, we will see what are the hook methods and different types of it. So, before moving forward and knowing what are modules, let us first identify some issues and understand how do we use modules to solve them. Okay, so consider that you have a very large code base and you need to make it more manageable and maintainable. So what you would be doing in this case is maybe you can identify some similar context of methods and variables and constants maybe, and you can form a class out of those. Maybe you can store all these different classes into different separate files, but it still can very well happen that there are still some methods which are having similar context, but you cannot form a class out of those methods. um, let us try to understand this issue with an example. So here I have two classes, say student and employee, and I have some methods defined in them. So you can see that all these methods are almost similar, having same context as a greeting to user. What I would be doing in this case is I need to group all this similar context of methods, but I cannot form a class out of those. So you would need some mechanism to group all this similar context of methods together without defining a class. Now let's consider another use case and let's identify another issue. So consider that you have a code. Let's consider it is an application of a Play Store maybe. Inside that you have a class name as application. What does that class do is it is a start point for your application. It have methods defined for your application to get started and work properly. Now say you have another use case of as it is a Play Store, you might be need to list all the other applications you're listing on that app store, right? So say that in this use case you want to name a class with the same name called as application. It will have all methods related to the listing of the apps you have or the information on that applications. So let's go ahead and check the example for this. So here I have two classes with the same name. Both of these classes have name as application and contains some methods related to their use case. So this first class contains a method called as start. It's just a basic start point for my application. And I have another class application. It have a method name as list of all apps. So basically what I want is this both class to be different classes, and I want to use both of them inside the same program in the same context. Now will I be able to access all this classes independently? Let's check it out. Let's try to run this. So okay, so I'm able to access the start, which is the method of this class. Okay, so what about this class and its methods? Are we able to access that class's methods? Let's find out. Let's first create a object of that class. Say maybe app1, and try to access that method. Now before moving forward and running this code, let's understand one thing. We have two classes with same name, and we have different methods defined inside those classes. What we expect here is both of these classes to be accessed independently of each other, and we should be able to access all these methods of that class as well. Okay, so now let's go ahead and run this program. Okay, so we are able to access those methods, but something strange is happening here. Let's check what is happening. So okay, so what we expect here is that this class application and this another class application, so this both class should be different, and also so as they are different, the methods this objects can access those, if this application is a instance of this application class, then it should be able to access this start method, and but it should not be able to access this method, right? Because this is a total different class, right? And same goes with this object as well. This object should not be able to access this start method. So let's try to access this different classes object, this different classes methods from the objects, and let's try to run this again. Okay, so looks like we are able to access both of these classes methods using both of the classes as object, but this is strange, right? This should not be happening. The reason this is happening is because for as we have defined both of these classes inside same file and inside the same context, what happened is that this method was just added into this application class only. So for example, this application class and this application class is referring to same class only, and this second definition we have written, it is just an addition of this class definition. It is just like this. It is similar to writing the code like this, but as we clearly mentioned earlier, that we needed to access both of these classes independently of each other. What happened here is those both are not, first of all, they are not different classes, and so how will we access them? First of all, how will we make them different from each other, and second question is how will we access them? All right. So the answer to this both issues is to use modules. By using modules, we can solve both of these issues. So what is module then? Like, what is the definition of it? So basically, module is nothing but collection of methods, variables, and constants. Now, if you are wondering that this is the exact same definition for class as well, it is also a collection of methods, constants, and variables. Now, what is the difference between module and a class? So the difference is that you can instantiate a class, right? You can make an object of those, but you cannot instantiate a module. You cannot make a object of modules. All right. So how do you define a module? So the way you define a module is by using a module keyword, and you pass a name to it, add some code, and then end the module. So the naming conventions we follow for class name, that same naming conventions would be followed here as well. So this is how you define a module. Now let us move back to our examples and see how are we solving them using modules. So we have already seen this example, and the way I access this class, this methods is I would be, as these are instance methods, I would be creating an instance of student, and then I would be accessing them by using the dot operator. Let's check and see how we can solve this problem using modules. The problem is that we want to group these methods, but we do not want to make a class out of those. So what I would be doing is I would be define a module. We will name it as greetings, and then I would be moving this both methods into that module. What I have done here is I have grouped some methods which have some similar context of greeting the user. I have moved that to a module. When these methods were inside a class, these methods were instance methods, right? The way we called them was by instantiating the class and using a dot operator on that object and then calling them, right? So first question is, so is this again like inside this module, is this a instance method? So the answer is yes, that this is an instance method. Second question is, if this is an instance method, then how will I like access this? Because inside class we were using an instance of a class, but as we said, like as we know that we cannot instantiate a module, then how will we access this method? So the answer to both of this question is, you need to include that module inside a class. Now, what do I mean by include here is that whatever methods or variables or constants defined in the module would be included inside this class. So basically these methods, when we include this greetings module inside this class, these methods will be used as same instance method inside this class. So we can create a object of a student and then we can call this methods on that object using a dot operator. The way we include this module inside a class is by using a include preprocessor director. So something like this. This tells the compiler that to include this greetings inside the student. So now let's try to run this program. Okay, so it says undefined method hello for employee. So why does that says this? Like it is undefined for the employee, because clearly I have not included the greetings module inside the employee class. So till now employee doesn't have instance definition for this say hello, right? But now as I have included it, and now if I try to rerun this program, okay, I forgot to print it. All right. Okay. So this is the way you can define, like you can group the methods and define them inside a module, and then you can use them inside a class like this. All right. Okay. Now let's move to another example, the second example of namespace, and let's see how will we solve this problem using module. So first of all, let's clear this up. All right. So what I will be doing here is I will just define a module play store, and what I will do is I will move the second application class inside that module. Now let's create one object of this application class. New, and let's try to access this method. Okay, and also we'll try to access the list of all apps method from this. So earlier what was happening is we were able to access the classes method, right? The different logically it was the same class, but we were able to access those methods, right? Now let's try to run this and see. Okay, so clearly we have got an error that this list of apps is not defined for this application class. Now here we have achieved what we were trying to achieve. So the use case was this both classes should be different. So now clearly those both are different because we are not able to access this method using the instance of this class, right? So now the question is, how will I access the application, this application class? Clearly, if I do something like this, it's still a confusion, right? Because here we are not specifying which application class we are trying to access. Is it this or is it this? The compiler would be confused, right? So the way we do that is we provide a module name before it and provide a namespace operator. So basically what we are trying to tell the compiler is, we are trying to refer to the application class which is inside the Play Store module. So it is basically inside the Play Store namespace. So this is how we provide the namespace, and we solve this naming clashing. So the problem we saw here was, it is called as name clashing, and module is the way to solve it. Okay, so we have covered what are modules. We saw how to define those. Also, we saw the namespaces, and also we saw the mixins. Remember, I said when we mix the module inside a class, so it is nothing but whenever you include any module inside a class, it is called as mixin, because we are basically mixing the module's methods into the class. All right. So now let's see what are different types of methods in module. So we already saw the instance method, which is this. So this was an instance method in module, right? Remember, we access that using a classes uh, instance and a dot operator. So so as inside a class, we do have something called as a class method as well. So the way we define those is by using a self dot, and maybe we will name it as name, and what is it does is just prints name. Okay, so the way we access this class method is by something like line number 27. We provide the class name, and we call it by the dot operator. Okay, so if we move ahead and run this code, so we would be able to run that method. So now let's define something similar. What it does is just prints module and name. Okay, so the way we accessed the class method was by using a student and the dot operator. So how will we access this method is, again, we will provide the module name, and we will provide the dot operator. So something like this. So if we go ahead and print this, we are able to access this method. So as this is a class method, this will be called as module method. So there are two types of methods in module as well. So those are instance method and the module method. All right. So instance variables in module. So we define some instance variables in class, right? And as we are able to access the instance, we are able to access the methods of modules from the class using the instance, we will be able to access the instance variables of the class inside the module as well. So say if I just clear this up, and we will define a initialize method which takes the name of the student and it assign it to the name instance variable. And now when we say this, say hello, we will not pass the okay, so we will not pass the argument, and we will just use the name instance variable here. So while we define, we will give the name as Ajay, and now let's try to access that method. Okay, let's run it. Okay, so we are able to access the instance variable which was defined inside the class, and we were able to access that inside the module. Okay, so now let's again check one example of modules. So here I have a class person defined. What it does is it's just like when we initialize the person, it takes name and age of it and stores inside the instance variable. Okay, and I have created three objects, three persons, and now I want to compare this both persons depending upon the age. So let's go ahead and run this code. So when I run this code, it's it's printing the output for this. So what we are trying to do here is I'm just trying to compare both of these persons basis their age. All right. Now consider if I do something like this, will that work? Let's find out. Okay, so it says undefined method this greater than equal greater than for the person object. All right. So it says that I cannot compare these both objects because this method is not defined. But say I want to use I want to be able to compare these methods basis on this comparative operators, and not only that, but I want to use this all different type of comparable operators also, like equal to or maybe greater than equal to or something like this, all operators. So the way I can do this is, say if I want to compare these objects, both objects on the basis of their age, then the way we can do this in Ruby is by just including the comparable module inside the class. So the comparable module is already defined by Ruby, and we just want to include it inside our class, and we need to define one method. The method would be this. Other object, and the definition of this method would be something like this, dot age. So what we are doing here is we first of all we included the comparable module. After that, we have okay, we have included it inside our class, but how will you tell Ruby what basis you want to compare those objects? Like for example, we have the age, but what if we had another parameter such as height or weight or something similar? Then we need to tell Ruby, we need to specify that on what basis we want this comparison to happen. So for that you need to define this method. It just takes object, and what you can do is you can compare the current object variable and the object which was passed inside the arguments, those objects variables, and then you can use this comparable operators. So if I go ahead and run the code again, now it's running fine. So if I go ahead and try to use some more operators, comparable operators, then I should be able to use them as well. Equal to, and we can also use something like between. If we can check if Virat's age is between the age of Rahul and Sachin. So if we go ahead and print this, we are able to run it fine. So okay, this should be double equal to, okay, all right. So also we can do something like this as well. If we pass all of this objects inside array and say sort, then we will be able to sort them out. But okay, so we need to do something like this. So what it does is it just sorted it, but we are not able to understand the objects. So what we will do is just this, we will go inside this and we'll print the name of those. Okay, I didn't print. Okay, it first printed Rahul, then Virat, and then Sachin. So basically depending upon their ages. Okay, all right. Now we already know what is include. Now let's see what is extend and the difference between both of those. Okay, so let us see an example on what is the difference between these both. So what I have done here is I have defined a class and I have included one module inside that, identify module, and I have one method inside this module which is who am I, and it does nothing but prints the name we are passing to it. Okay, so let's run this code and okay, so it does print the name we passed to it. All right, as expected. Now say I remove this include from here and I do something like this. I add extend to it. Now if I run this code again, it says undefined method who am I for the user's object we created. Okay, so why this happened? So if like clearly we have defined this method, but somehow it is now not accessible by this object we are creating of the user. So for this object it is not defined. So what does that mean is we don't have any instance method for this user object defined in either user class or either the module we are including in it. So this method is not an instance method now. So that is for sure, right? Because we are not able to access it from the instance of this class. So if I try something like this, so now let's go ahead and check. Okay, so now it is running. So basically what extend do is whatever methods you have defined inside this module, it will copy them inside the user class, but not as an instance method, but it will do them as a class method. So basically if we do include, then it will include all those methods inside the class as a instance method, but if we extend the module, it will copy all those methods inside the class as a class methods. All right, so this is the difference between extend and include. All right, now let's see what is prepend then. So again we will move to this example and we will see what is the difference between prepend now. So what I will do is just add prepend here. All right, now let's go ahead and run this code again. All right, so it says undefined method who am I for class. All right, so clearly we have this method defined, but somehow now it is not accessible by the class. So clearly it is not a class method now, right? So let us try to access it from the instance now. So if we create the instance and try to run it, all right, so now we are able to access it from the instance, but we were able to access it from the instance doing include as well, right? So if we include the module, same thing is happening. If we prepend the module, same thing is happening, right? But then what is the difference between include and prepend? So to understand the difference between these both, we will have to look up what is ancestor chain in Ruby. Okay, so ancestor chain is nothing but the chain of all the inherited classes and included modules inside a class. Not just that class itself, but all the parent classes all the way up to the root class. So let us check an example on this. Alright, so if I create this class, say user, and I move ahead and call ancestors methods on this. So now what we have got is some kind of a array. So first of all, we have got user class, all right. But now we have got this object something, then kernel something, and basic object something. So by default in Ruby, if you create any class, then it will be inherited from this object class. All right, we will see what is this kernel. Before that, we will understand the basic object. So a basic object is nothing but a class only, and it is a root class in Ruby. All right, now let's understand what is kernel then. So as I said that this list contains list of all the parent classes which were inherited and all the included modules. So kernel is nothing but a module, and that module is included inside the object class. Now this all methods you use such as puts and all methods are defined inside the kernel module, and as it is included inside the object module and you by default object module is inherited in all classes, that's how you are able to use this method. So if you do something like this, it is nothing but we are calling the puts methods, and this put method and this put methods is the same only. All right. Okay. Now let's try to run our program. All right. So here if I do something like, say I change it to include again, and what I do is just print ancestors. Okay, so what it does is just gives us the list of included modules and inherited classes. So we can see that we have got user, then after that we have got identify module, and then after that the default chain. So identify was included inside user. We have got user and then identify. For now the sequence is the class itself, and then the included modules, then the parent class, and all the way up. So now let us understand why the sequence matter. So say I copy this similar method and add it inside this module. Now what I have done is I have included this module. It contains this method. Similar method is defined inside the class as well. And we will just do one thing so that we will understand it clearly. So what I have done is just updated the definition of it, but the name and arguments are same. So if I go ahead and call this method now, let's see what happens. Okay, so it called the method from the class but not the module. So why this happened? So the thing is that first of all, this whoami is an instance method, right? So here when we accessed it, what happened is the compiler will first go to this user class, and it will check if this method named as whoami and taking one parameter, is it defined is this kind of instance method defined in this class. It will check for that. If it is present, then it will run that method for you. But if it is not present inside this class, then what will it do is it will check the ancestor chain, and after user, as identify module is there, it will go inside the identify module and then it will check inside that. Now suppose if identify module is not there, then it will go in the object class and so on. So it will check all the way up to the root class. So one by one it will check. Okay. So that's why the chain matters. Now let's go ahead and change this to Prepend. Okay, and now let's run this similar code again. Just clear this and let's run it. Alright, so now somehow it is referring to the module. So what happened is, somehow from here it didn't check inside the class, but it checked inside the module first. Now does this have to do something with the ancestor chain? So let's see. I'll go ahead and print the ancestor chain now. So okay, all right. So now, before earlier we looked at user, then after that the included module was there, right? Identify was after user, but now we can see that identify is before user. Now why this happened is because of this prepend keyword. So the only difference between include and prepend is that when you include a module, it will be added after the class inside the ancestor chain. But if you prepend any module inside a class, then it will be added before the class in the ancestor chain. So basically the use case will be, if you want to override any of the methods inside the class, then you will need to prepend any module inside it. Okay, now let's do one thing and put extend in here, and let's check the ancestor chain. Okay, so if we do that, inside the ancestor chain we do not have any modules, those are extended. Okay, so inside this you will only get the modules which are included or prepended. Okay, now you might ask that if I have, say, multiple modules, say name this as identify 2, and here as well identify 2, and just include this, and we'll do same thing with this. Let's check. All right, let's clear this up. Okay, so now we have got user, then identify 2, then identify. So basically the recent included module will show up first in the ancestor chain after the class. All right, now so basically if I move ahead and just alter this, and if I print this, then it will put the identify first because it was included recently. All right, now say I remove this and I do prepend on it. Okay, and let's print it out. So what it have done is it put identify first, after that identify 2, after that user. So okay, so it put identify first. Let's copy this, let's put it here. Okay, so it put identify first, then after it put the identify too. Why? Because identify was prepended recently in the class, right? So the most recent in prepended module is identify. That's why it will be all the way up in the front, in the first position. Before that, the identify 2 was prepended, so it will be after that inside the chain. Because remember, we need, like, the use cases, whenever we need the modules methods to be called, we prepend it. So here, as we have prepended this first, and after that we prepended this, we the use cases, we need the identifies methods to be looked up first, then after the identify tools method to be looked up, and after that the user classes methods will be looked up. All right, so that's it. And let's say now if I go ahead and include this, let's run it. All right, so clearly the module prepended was added earlier, before the class, and the module included was added after the class. Okay. All right, so okay, now let's understand what are hook methods. Okay, so hook methods are nothing but those are reactions to some actions you perform in Ruby. Now, what do I mean by action is something like you include any module inside a class, or prepend it or extend it, or whenever you inherit one class from the another class. This kind of things we are referring to as actions here. The definition is reaction to some action you do in Ruby. So what do we mean by reaction then? So reaction can be anything. Say for example, you need to perform a set of functions whenever this particular action is executed. Say for example, you need to be able to notify it once any module is included inside a class. So the way you will tell Ruby you need to run this set of functions when once this particular module is included inside any of the class is by defining this hook methods. So basically those are nothing but methods only, and the programmer needs to define these methods in order to tell Ruby what reaction you need to perform. Okay, there are like several types of hook methods in Ruby, but in this session we will be focusing on this five. So included, prepended, extended, inherited, and method missing. Like you will understand it by the name only. So for example, this included hook method is associated with the inclusion of any module. So say for example, if you include any module inside a class, this included hook method will be executed if it is defined. All right, so the prepended, so prepended is whenever you prepend any module inside a class, then the prepended hook method would be executed, and similarly. So let us see the example now. Okay, so what I have done here is I have defined a modules tags, and there are two classes defined here. So and also I have this method defined here, so included. So this is nothing but our hook method. The method definition contains like it's just I'm printing something, and the syntax for this method is you call it on the tags module itself. It is a module method. Okay, so hook methods are nothing but those are reactions to some actions you perform in Ruby. Now, what do I mean by action is whenever you perform anything, any something like you include any module inside a class, or prepend it or extend it, or whenever you inherit one class from the another class. This kind of things we are referring to as actions here. So the reaction, the definition is reaction to something you do in Ruby, like some action you do in Ruby. So what do we mean by reaction then? So reaction can be anything. Say for example, you need to perform a set of functions whenever this particular action is executed. Say for example, you need to be able to notify it once any module is included inside a class. So the way you will do this, the way you will tell Ruby you need to like run this set of functions when once this particular module is included inside any of the class, is by defining this hook methods. So basically those are nothing but methods only, and the programmer needs to define these methods in order to tell Ruby what actions you need to like perform, what reaction you need to perform. Okay, so we'll go ahead and see one example on this. So before seeing the example, so there are like several types of hook methods in Ruby, but in this session we will be focusing on this five. So included, prepended, extended, inherited, and method missing. So like the name itself, it is like you will understand it by the name only. So for example, this included hook method is associated with the includes the inclusion of any module. So say for example, if you include any module inside a class, this included hook method will be executed if it is defined. These are not defined by default. The programmer or you will need to define it. All right. So the prepended. So prepended is whenever you prepend any module inside a class, then the prepended hook method would be executed, and similarly. So let us see the example now. Okay. So what I have done here is I have defined a modules tags, and there are two classes defined here. So and also I have this method defined here. So included. So this is nothing but our hook method. The method definition contains like it's just I'm printing something, and the syntax for this method is you call it on the tags module itself. It is a module method, and you pass it a parameter, now a argument. So basically what this argument is, the whichever class you are including this tags module in, class will be passed here. So basically the target class, we can say. So the base class. So what I have done here is I have added a statement as puts self has been included in base. So self will be referring to tags here, and base will be referring to employee or student, whichever I included in. So now let's go ahead and run this code first. So if I print this, okay, so nothing happens. But if I go ahead and uncomment this, and now I run it, so now it is saying that tax has been included in employee. So basically we have included this tax now. So that's why this method was executed, and that's how we are like we are able to perform any set of actions on a, like we are able to perform any reaction on an action. So include here is an action, and this printing this statement was the reaction. So okay, so now let us see all of the remaining one. So prepended, extended, and inherited. So if I go ahead and I say extend this, if I go ahead and print this now, let's print it. So nothing happened, but why does nothing happen? We have basically extended the module, but inside this module tags, we have just defined the hook method included, and we have not defined the hook method called as extended. So if we go ahead and do something like this, we define the extended method as well. And now if I go ahead and run, So now it prints. So basically all this hook methods are associated with any particular action in particular. So basically prepended is associated with prepend, and extended is associated with extend. Similarly, inherited is associated with inheritance. So whenever you inherit any class, this method will be calling. So so prepended will be same. Like if you like replace this extend by prepend, you will need to define the prepended hook method, which have like this same syntax. All right. So let us move ahead and check example of inherited, sorry. So now I have inherited this employee class inside this student class. Now let's run this code once. Okay, so nothing happened because I have not yet defined the hook method. Now, like as we defined this hook methods inside the modules, but why did we like define those inside the module? We need to be able to be notified when this tax module in particular is included inside any class, right? So these hook methods were related to the tax module, so that's why we defined it them inside the tax module only. But now, so if I move ahead like and I define this inherited inside this, say again the base, and okay, and if I go ahead and run this code, nothing happened. But why? Because we have not defined it as a class method. So so now it is saying that employee is a type of student. Sorry, this should be something like this. Okay, all right. So basically the methods the method should be a class method, or in this case it should be a module method. That's when this method will be called, and this is the syntax for those. So basically the syntax is nothing but you define it on the module or on a class, and you pass one argument to it. The argument is nothing but the target like class or module, uh, whichever. So now let us check one example of our last hook method, which is nothing but a method missing. Now this one is interesting. So and it is used mostly. So if I go ahead and if I say define this method as test, and let's add a let's print test inside it. So this is nothing but a like instance method, and defined on employee. Now let's create one instance of employee, and let's call this method. Let's just change the name. Say okay, so just my name and name. Okay, let's run this. So it says name. Okay, so it is working as per expectations. Now if I move ahead and if I declare this module and include it inside this class, see now again I have defined this same method inside this. Okay, I'll just add tags here. Okay, so it is referring to the name. Now we know why it is referring to name, because we have included the module. So it will be added after the class in ancestor chain. All right. So that's why. But say now I remove this method from the class, and now I run this. So now it is referring to the module's definition. Okay. But say if we remove it from here as well, and we are trying to access this method, so it says undefined method name, my name, for the employee instance, because clearly we do not have this method defined. But say I want it to be handled elegantly, and I don't want any exceptions to be raised. So what I will be doing is I will define this method, say I will name it as method missing. So basically nothing but a hook method, and it takes two arguments. So R1, and we'll name it as R2. Okay, we'll go ahead and just print this both arguments. Okay, so all right. So as yes, and also remember we needed to use self before. So let's move ahead and run this code. If let's see if it works. All right. So still we have defined the hook method as method missing. Still it is saying that this method is not defined. It raised the exception, right? The reason is we added this self here. So for this methods definition, you do not need it will be an instance method only. It will not be a class method. All right. So now if I run this, it says wrong number of arguments. Now clearly, so the error has changed, right? So now it is saying the wrong number of arguments. But why does it saying this? And it is saying this on line number 10. So let's see what we have done wrong here. So all right. So this method missing takes two arguments, and it is saying that expected given is 1 and expected is 2. So let's understand what is happening here. So basically here the first argument will be the method we are calling. So we can rename this as called method. So basically it will contain the name of the method called, and second it will contain is the arguments passed to that method. So basically here it will be like methods args. So but what happened is we called this method my name, but no argument was passed through to this name. All right. So say if I pass this method argument now, and if I move ahead and print this, now it is saying that my name and name. So for a clear understanding, we'll say that this method is not defined. All right. Okay. Now say if I pass multiple arguments, say I passed it the name. So now it again breaks. So what to do in such cases? Because you will never know what kind of method anyone is calling, right? So if they pass a different number of arguments, the method will fail. So what you can do is you can add a asterisk here. So it will let Ruby know that you are expecting multiple arguments. So now if I run this, it is printing all the arguments passed to that method. Okay. Now one more thing. Earlier we removed the self from here, right? So if I add this self and I run this, it will clearly fail, right? But the interesting part is, now if I move ahead and I call this method on the employee itself, clearly the my name is not defined on employee as well. The method is not defined. So now it works. So basically, whenever you need this method to handle the missed method call for class methods, you will declare it as self. But if you want those for the instance method, you will declare it as a instance method. So that is the difference between it. All right. So okay. All right. So there is one more thing remaining, which is okay. So we saw that we can define a class inside a module and all, but can we include a module inside a module itself? So let's check that example once. All right. So what I have done here is I have one module defined in name as name m1. I have some methods defined in it. So m1 contains m1. The definitions would tell us which method is being called. Then m is defined in m2 and m1 as well, and m2 is defined in m2, and we have included this m1 inside the module. So now let's run this code and check what is happening. All right. So basically, in the ancestor chain, user is there, then after that the m2 is there, and then after that m1 is there. So what happen is, in the ancestor chain, it will put first the user. After that, it will add the included modules inside the user. After that, it will add the modules which are included in m2. All right. So as m2 was included in user, it was after the user, and as m1 is included in m2, it was after m2. So likewise. All right. And for the methods, so m1 was called, m2 was called, and m was called. So basically m1, we were able to access m1 with the object of user because it was included inside the m2, which we later included inside user class. And if we check which method was called on the m, so it will refer the m2 because of the ancestor chain. Okay. Now if I move ahead and I do something like this, what would be the output now? Okay. So the interesting thing is that now user is there, after that the m1 is there, and after that the m2 is there. So basically what prepend does is, like, it will prepend m1 before m2 inside the ancestor chain. Now if I move ahead and if I prepend this, now m1 is first, after that m2, and after that user. All right. And now if I move ahead and include this, now m2 is first, and then m2, and then user. All right. Okay. So that was it. Thank you.